And I just want to wish everybody a good morning from Pocahontas, Virginia. I was just noticing that church up there on the hilltop with that steeple. It's pretty awesome. And speaking of churches, right here at the Pocahontas Lions Club, look at this old church. That is pretty awesome too. We're going to have a fun little day today as we are going to check out the town of Pocahontas, and we're going to talk a little bit about the history of this town and what this town meant for the beginnings of the coal boom here in the Appalachian Mountains. Well, good morning, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. It is quite brisk and chilly. I don't mind when it's cool, but today it's fairly pretty cold actually. At the time of this recording, it's probably about 34 degrees, and that wouldn't be terrible, but the wind is, it gives that cold a little bit more bite, if you know what I mean. So we're gonna walk around this little town today. I'm sure we're gonna see some really cool stuff. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the story of this town and the history that goes along with it. I'm looking forward to it. It's good to have you here. Let's not waste no time. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about Pocahontas as I'm looking at this old abandoned service station. And that tow truck over there looks like it belonged to Cooter Davenport at one time. Cooter Davenport, of course, was a character on one of the most beloved TV shows of the 80s, The Dukes of Hazzard. So let's just take a little walk down this pathway here. And let's talk about Pocahontas, Virginia, because it is one of the most important early coal towns in Appalachia, often considered the birthplace of the Southern coal boom. So the coal in this region was first noted around 1750 by an explorer by the name of Thomas Walker, but it wasn't seriously developed for over a century later. In 1873, the surveys confirmed that the coal here in this region, especially the ones that become known as Pocahontas number 3 seam, was some of the highest quality coal in the world. So the town itself was founded in 1881 by the Southwest Virginia Improvement Company as a planned company town built around the coal mining. Named after the Native American figure Pocahontas, officially established this as a town in 1884. The Norfolk and Western Railroad was extended to the area in 1883, which made the large-scale coal shipping possible. Hundreds of immigrant workers, Hungarians, Italians, and Swedish, and others came to build the town, work the mines, living at first in tents before permanent housing was finally built. Speaking of the railroad, the old railroad tracks are still here, hidden right below the grass line here. As you can see, you can still see the remnants of the old train track here in Pocahontas, Virginia. Just think about how many tons of coal was hauled out of this town right here on this very rail line. So once the rail line was in place, Pocahontas quickly became a major industrial hub. The first coal shipment left here in March of 1883. The town gave its name to the massive Pocahontas coal field spanning from Virginia into West Virginia. So the coal was prized for being low smoke and high energy. It was used by railroads, steel industries, and even the U.S. Navy. The success of the Pocahontas coal actually helped turn Norfolk and the Western Railway into a major national railroad. By 1920, the town reached its populational peak. Man, check out this awesome post office they have here. Pocahontas Post Office. Zip code 24635. That is really nice. And right across the road from the post office, it looks like there used to be some old buildings right here that's been removed fairly recently, because look, you can still see some old tile work right here from maybe the entrance to one of the companies or businesses that was here. So like many coal towns, Pocahontas saw both prosperity and hardships. A major mine explosion that happened in 1884 killed over 100 miners. And the really sad thing about that, even some of those miners were kids, because in the 1800s, you didn't have no child labor laws. And I think a lot of the miners, they got paid on how much coal they got, like from weight. So sometimes they would get their children to come with them and help do a little bit of extra mining to get the weight up where they get a little bit more pay. Workers here in the town lived in company housing and depend heavily on the mining company. The town had a structured layout, housing rows, a company store, bathhouses, typical of a model coal camp. And speaking of the company store, you see this tower right here. I was reading online that this tower is what is left over from the Pocahontas company store, which is pretty awesome. I wonder if that was like a elevator shaft or something along those lines. So this is pretty interesting that they left this elevator shaft behind to kind of mark the location here. As you can see where the store used to sit right here on this green grass, this lawn. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I know I was in Itmann maybe a year and a half ago doing a vlog, and the Itmann store was still there. And there's a point, you know, I entered the old abandoned store and go inside and showed the elevator shaft in that store amongst other things. That place was really creepy and pretty awesome. I will put a link down in the description below if you would like to see that. But yeah, right here it is. Really, really cool. This is where the company store used to sit here in the town of Pocahontas. Coal production here in Pocahontas continued for decades, but the main mine closed in 1955 after producing over 44 million tons of coal. Like many Appalachian coal towns, the population declined sharply after 1960. And I just wanted to walk over here just to get a little closer look at this little statue right here, this little coal miner. He's pretty beat up though, because his face has pretty much been, you know, either it's deteriorated or been beat on a little bit. It's got this little pot of coal right here. Pretty neat little mural nonetheless. Okay, so that'll pretty much do it for most of the early history of the town of Pocahontas. You can kind of try to paint a picture on like what happened here, how the town came to be. Talked a little bit about the disaster of 1884. We're not done with that though. But first, since I'm here in the town, I want to walk up here to the downtown area, show you some of the old historical buildings that are original, that are still standing to this day from that time period when this town was booming. And then we're going to make our way over to a cemetery, and the cemetery is where all those miners were laid to rest. Even the children, and some of the graves over there I was told was unmarked graves. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. So let's go uptown and check that out, and then we'll make our way over to the cemetery. And check out this building here. This here is the old U.S. Post Office here for Pocahontas, Virginia. That is pretty awesome. Pretty epic. I think I'm going to continue making my way up this street here, because right up here is the main street, the downtown area with all the historical buildings, and we're going to kind of make a lap around them and check those out. I even think they have an old fire department and city hall. Okay, so as I'm making my way up here to the historic district, let's talk a little bit about population and get into some demographics. So the population here in Pocahontas is 249 souls. Not a lot of people living here. And the median age is 52.7. And that's pretty old for a town. So now let's take a look at demographics. 89.26% is white, 8.68% is black, 2.07% is Asian. So next up, let's talk about income. Income per capita here in Pocahontas is $35,447, which is quite a bit below the Virginia's $52,412 and the $44,883 of the national. The median household income is $36,895, which is well below the $97,559 of Virginia and the The poverty level here in Pocahontas is pretty high, 35.1%. That is well above Virginia's 11.4 and the national at 15.1. And then we'll look at crime. Crime here in Pocahontas is 791 per 100K, which is not bad at all. That is very, very low. Then when we look from a percentage standpoint, total crime comes in at 63% below the national average and 100% below the national average for violent crime, and 55% on property crime below the national average. Okay, so I made my way up here to West St. Clair Street. And St. Clair Street is pretty cool. Check that out, man. That brickwork. Old brick street. But this here, this old building right here is pretty awesome. Black Diamond Video is what it says up there. Now I'm sure that's something that happened in the last 30 or 35 years when video stores were around. I actually like that name, Black Diamond, because sometimes coal is called Black Diamond. But one of my, favorite bands of all time is a band called Kiss. And some of you guys who've been around on the channel for a while know that. And I'm a big Kiss fan. And one of my favorite Kiss songs was Black Diamond. So cool little tie-in right there. Yeah, this is just awesome. And look at this building, this white one. Look at those designs up there. It's almost like S's or like backward S's or something. That is so weird. It has that little patio, balcony or whatnot. Maybe that was a hotel at one time, possibly. It's kind of a shame that they don't have any kind of, I don't know, like plaques up or something. This is such a cool historic place. And they don't have a lot of any real like historic information about it. But look at it. It is very, very cool designs. I mean, just the architecture. Look at that up there. That is so cool. Okay, and so right next door looks to be the old Pocahontas Fire Company. Look at this place. These big bay doors, I guess, where the fire trucks would roll out of here. You can just walk in this place. This is so cool. Very, very spacious. Sometimes I gotta admit, it is so weird to be like so far from home, walking around in some like really historic spot like this. You almost got to pinch yourself, That's how much I love this type of stuff. And look at all those handprints on that wall. It looks like maybe that was a door or something at one time, possibly. Or a window, not really sure. But yeah, I don't know. I think last time in the movie I seen handprints like that was in that movie Blair Witch Project. Y'all remember that? Oh my God, that movie was crazy. I was just a teenager when that thing came out. I remember there at the very end, they go in that old cabin at the end of the movie. No spoilers, I ain't gonna tell you what happens. But there was like these little baby handprints all over the walls, if I remember correctly. It was a long time ago, but that's what that kind of made me think of. Okay, so right here next to the Pocahontas Fire Company is the City Hall. Look at that up there, that writing. City Hall, 1895. That is pretty awesome. And then if we look right down here on the far end of the building of City Hall, I guess this is where the courthouse was, right? That's what it says right there above that door. Look at there. Just says court. And that's not all this place had going on, because we come over here to the left door, the far one over here on the left side, it says the Opera House in 1895 was upstairs. Right up there inside those windows. You could watch some like Broadway style plays. The first theater in the region was right here. Had the latest Broadway shows. That is pretty cool. Okay, so I was standing right over there. This here is the side of the old city hall and the courthouse and everything. I wonder what used to be right here. You can kind of see the remnants of his stone wall. I didn't really see any signs or anything online of what that used to be. But there is another really cool store right over here around the corner. It's like an old general store. We're going to go check it out next. Okay, I made my way over here to the corner of West St. Clair Street and West Church Street. And this here is the little general store I wanted to show you right here. Look at that. It's called Butt and Coffins. Interesting, right? So this place was actually run by a local cabinet maker here named William Butt. His shop specialized in making coffins, which was sadly necessary trade here in a dangerous coal mining town like this. And this place actually has quite the connection to the 1884 mine disaster that happened here, as you can imagine. There was a lot of bodies to be recovered and buried here in a close by cemetery, which we're going to go look at here shortly. Okay, and right here close to the coffin store, just wanted to give you an idea what some of the housing looks like here. You know, a lot of abandonment going on. This place here probably has not been lived in probably 40 years or more. And then there's some tarp up there or something kind of blowing around. And look at the architecture of that old building. That looks really cool. Pretty awesome. Very creepy and quiet. Speaking of creepy places, I bet even, I know Scooby-Doo and Shaggy wouldn't just freely walk into that place. But I'm thinking even Fred, you know, and Daphne and them, they're not going to drag them in there neither. There is no way. That is, whoo-wee. That place there gives me the chilly willies. Okay, and right here next to that creepy building we were just looking at is this old abandoned brick structure. And this actually used to be a church, according to this plaque right here. It says, Church of Christ, 1924. Upon this rock, I will build my church. Right here. Look at these steps. Kind of walk out here and, yeah. It used to be a church. I guess it burned down or something maybe a long time ago, because look at all the trees and everything that is grown in to the structure itself now. Let's take a little step inside here. You know I'm gonna go in. Look at that. Wow. And there's all kinds of vegetation and trees growing inside here. That is wild. So wild when you walk into something like that, and used to be a place of worship. People go in there and have ceremonies and weddings and moments of fun and happiness, and then something happened and poof, it's all gone. Just a ghostly remain. All right, so check out these old buildings. All original here in the historic district. Really is cool, especially this one, this yellow one right here. It's pretty interesting. This here is the public library now. And you see the sign up here, it says Emma Yates Memorial Library. And she was pretty important here in this town. As you can see, they have a plaque right up there. And it says Miss Emma Yates Millinery Shop, 1902. And just to give you a little backstory about her and what millinery is, Miss Emma Yates was born on February 18th, 1869. And she came to this area with her father in a covered wagon. And later, she went to New York City to study designing. And upon her return, she opened up Miss Emma's Millinery Shop in this very building. Miss Emma was well known throughout the area for her millinery expertise. Local ladies would meet at her shop. In the afternoon, the chat would definitely happen. Their hats were being made. She loved making hats. There's a lot of hats in there. I did walk inside. And residents from Bramwell would ride the train over here to Pocahontas to get some of her services. So there you go. We learned a little thing about a local here in town. All right, my friends, I think that right there is going to wrap it up for the historic district. Really cool to kind of walk around and check this whole place out. But now we're going to dive back into the 1884 mine disaster a little bit. I want to take you over to see Pocahontas's very first cemetery. And in that cemetery is where all the mass graves are of the people that were removed from that mine explosion that lost their life right here. So let's go ahead and make our way over to the cemetery and check it out, and then we're going to wrap it up today. It's been a good one so far. Appreciate you guys watching. Okay, so right here is the Pocahontas Cemetery, and it is quite expansive. And this is where the miners were laid to rest. And this here was the first cemetery here in the area. Pocahontas Cemetery was created after the 13th of March in 1884 explosion in the Pocahontas East Mine that claimed the lives of at least 114 miners. Not until a month later were the bodies recovered from the mine and buried together in what the town became its first cemetery. Wow. It says often they were grouped by ethnic and religious heritages, reflecting rich diversity of the Pocahontas community. Some gravestones are actually in Hungarian, Italian, Polish, and Russian. Did not know that. So that is pretty awesome. Really, really interesting stuff here. Now, it did not state anywhere on there talk about kids being buried here, but I read that on several locations online, and I think that definitely makes sense. I actually talked to somebody in town that we talked about a little bit, and I asked them, did you ever hear of kids being involved in that? And she said, yeah, a lot of people said that a lot of the families did have their children with them to help them work in the mines. That's so sad. But I think all that being said, my friends, I think that's going to pretty much wrap up the vlog today. And we're going to end it here because this is a massive cemetery. And I've not really seen, I don't know where all the older graves are located. They've got graves kind of just spread out everywhere, especially up on the hilltop. Me and my wife actually walked along this ridge up here when we first got here, and we was looking. But unfortunately, I really didn't see anything. So I think we're just going to call it a day today. I did what I wanted to come and see and show you guys. Really, really awesome stuff. And yeah, this is 1901, so it's not even old enough. So this area here is not the area where the graves are. But if any of you guys have ever been to this place and you know where the graves are, definitely state in the comment section down below and let us know. Really, 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 really fun day here in Pocahontas, Virginia. Man, the mountains are just so beautiful. Look at that up there. Very, very nice. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching as always. Until next time, I'm the Hitchhiking Yeti, and I will see you on my next adventure. Y'all stay safe, and I hope to see you all again soon. So long from Pocahontas, Virginia. It was a good one. And we have a little bonus footage. If I'm breathing hard, it's because I ran up this hill. But one more thing I want to show you before we leave. I didn't find any graves, but I did find this. Check that out. Erected in memory of the 114 coal miners killed in the East Mine of Southwest Virginia Improvement Company, March 13th, 1884. Historic Pocahontas, Inc., March 13th, 1984. So I just want to share that with you. I thought this was kind of cool. And interesting enough, look at the big old chunks of coal that are right here at this monument. Look at that. Interesting. All right, I'm really done now. Y'all have a good day. See you next time. See you on the flip-flop, as they say.